Hey everyone, welcome. My name is Marilyn Shannon, and this is the Breaking Free Show. And I'm so happy you're here. Happy holiday to everybody. Happy turkey and all the good stuff. And I want to just say how excited I am to be back. I've been gone for a couple of weeks because I've been moving, and that is not a happy thought. But I love where I am now. So I'm really happy with my new home. But it's, oof. So one little word of advice: start cleaning out, purge, 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 because you don't want to be left like I was. Mess, mess, mess. Anyway, we're going to get on with the show. So I want to say hi to Amnon.
Hello, Marilyn. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm fine.
My
I
fa-
missed you.
you did.
Boy, did I
I
miss
miss you too.
And I'll bet all your audience have been missing you.
Well, I like to
2
think
weeks.
so. 2 weeks. I like to
But you
think,
did it.
but I did it. And
You did it.
I have all my pictures hanging. I have everything everywhere done. So I'm like, I was speedy, 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 but I can't work and do what I want to do in the world and for myself if stuff's not done. So I'm really excited to say that for this new year, this new day, it's all done. Anyway, during the show, please feel free to call in anytime you want to 919-518-9773, or you can communicate with us on Skype, and that would be computers, that's plural, the number 2K voice, computers 2K voice, anytime you want. We also have a chat you can partake in. Just put your name near the video, nickname is fine, and you can be in there. You can ask questions, you can communicate, and I sure hope you do take us up on that invitation to communicate with us during the show, because it's always fun to be of this community that we are. So please feel free to do that. So today, my guest is Dan Campbell. He is a contemporary artist, and I love his work. And I know you will too. We're going to show you some, but we're also going to talk about, kind of like what goes on in the inside, the outside, the down deep, and all that of being creative and of art and all that stuff. So I want to thank Dan for being here. Hey, Dan.
Hey, it's great to be here, Marilyn.
It's
Thanks.
it's a pleasure to have you. Thanks so much for taking the time to be here because I know it's a busy week.
Thank you. Thank you. It's a pleasure.
So, give us a little background first of who Dan is.
Well, I'm a contemporary artist and had a major breaking free moment about 4 years ago. I had been doing art all of my life since I was a young boy, but mostly as a hobby. And I thought I wanted to be a commercial artist. At one point, went to school for a couple of years studying that, and but bought the story that you really couldn't make a good living as an artist, and so changed gears and went the business direction. So spent 30 years in a business and marketing career, most notably in the health and sports club industry, and then about 4.5 years ago had a wake up moment and woke up from my deep sleep and realized that um, in my mid 50s, I was reaching the point where I could feel the sand going through the hourglass, and started asking myself some important questions like, what would you do if you could do it? What one thing would you do? And so those questions led me to doing what I absolutely loved when I was young, and that was my art.
That moment must have been extraordinary when that hit you, huh?
It was probably as close to a calling as I could describe. Um, and I don't normally subscribe to coffee cup inspiration, but that morning that I had this very crystallized thought. I'm having my cup of coffee, and I look down at the coffee cup, and it says, "Do what you love and love what you do." And
Literally? Where?
literally,
The cup
on the
itself?
cup, on the cup. It's inscribed on the cup. I never had paid attention to it,
Uh,
um, but it was inscribed on the cup, and it was just, I was already having this, oh yeah, I know what I want to do, and then I looked at this slogan, um, and it really became my mantra, um, and from that point on, there was no doubt. Even though my wife said, "Hey, maybe you want to do this part time," um, I thought, if I invest myself fully in something that I just have an incredible passion for, what could happen? What good things could happen?
Had you been painting and creating up to this point, or did you go from loving it to nothing and then to starting again?
Well, I had been doing art really only as a hobby, and so I would occasionally do drawings or watercolors or pastel things for family and friends for Christmas or birthdays or things like that, but not very focused at all. And so I was not in the zone of doing art when this really came to fruition in my mind.
It's amazing because I'm sure we know a lot of people out there that have had a similar want or experience to want to like write or paint or draw or sing who don't believe they can. So I know you're talking to a lot of people. And in 4 years, you said?
4.5.
Four and a half years. Oh my God, you've created like masterpieces. And so before we go into some more discussion with Dan, I just want to show you just a few of these slides that we have, and then we're going to go into talking. So, Amnon, could you just take us through? So, here's Dan at work.
It's a live painting demonstration.
Cool. There we go. Next one. Happy Dan.
That was a new piece I'm actually creating for my art showcase this coming weekend.
Cool. Next. Okay. So now, what is this one?
This, and I'm inspired by tons of things, Marilyn, but one of the things pop culture wise and is just some of the famous people in our past. This is Martin Luther King. It's not a real great photograph, but this is Martin Luther King, and of course, touching base with his famous speech, and he was all about equality, and this was kind of one of the first really big faces that I painted, and I really wanted to capture, his eyes. He's really thinking about, it's not about the color of your skin; it's about the content of your character, and I really wanted to try to capture an inspiring piece on canvas about him.
So, did I hear you correctly? This is one of the first faces that you did.
Mm-hmm.
Is that right?
Mm-hmm.
And so, do you have an overall mission in your art?
Well, obviously, to inspire is a great mission. I wouldn't say every piece I do is inspiring to everybody as a whole, but I just try to create some beauty. I think that was one of the things I felt like I wanted to do was, with each piece of art, certainly try to please myself. The first litmus test for any piece of art is that I'd actually hang it on my own wall. But beyond that, I think it's probably my old marketing sense that's also kicks in, and I listen to people a lot. I listen to what they like about art. And someone will say, "I like this in your style of art," or "I don't like it," and I'll log that away. So it's the old marketing guy in me that listens both to what's in my own heart as well as what people like. And of course, I was drawn to not necessarily realism, but sort of an impressionistic style of art long ago, and with a degree of abstraction. And that's kind
So
of
describe those different modalities of art.
Sure. Well, Impressionism kind of resulted, back in the early days of the modern era, mid 1800s, especially when the modern era got started, where it was really the artist's impression of a scene or a subject in art, as opposed to trying to paint the exact picture. And so that allowed, at least for me, it describes what allows an artist to really contribute a lot of creativity. Every person has a different lens. And so I try to help people see what I'm seeing, but also leave some room for their own interpretation. And that's perhaps a lot of the reason why a lot of times in my paintings there's part of the image that's present, part of the image that's not present, and it engages your own imagination for you to interpret what's there before you.
Do you know what? So in that, understanding that, do you know what you would put there or not?
Hmm. Well, I'll usually when I start a painting, I have an idea of what I want to create, and that's half the battle for an artist is to really decide what to paint. Um, and although there are artists, that back in the action era, would paint just paint to paint. I typically have a subject in mind or a theme in mind, but that often changes. The the aspect of it, the color composition, the textural qualities, sometimes even the scope of it changes midstream. So you allow for the process to give you some flexibility to change the piece of art. And your eye is always judging as you're going through it. And your heart and soul are judging as you're going through it. Again, does it pass that litmus test? That is this something that you like so much that someone else might also like it? So that's how at least the flexibility I leave myself as an artist. Um,
So so it's interesting because I never thought about it exactly like this, but when you are painting something, let's say a face or whatever it is, a character of some sort, everything is somewhat of a character. It's kind of like when somebody's writing, the character kind of takes form,
mm,
direction as you bring it to life. So
mhm.
it's a similar concept in your painting,
Right.
right?
Yeah, I agree. I
So
agree.
did you, when you made the decision 4.5 years ago to go full force ahead, did you start to take classes or did you just start painting?
Well, and I had had some training obviously when I was younger, and having a sort of a natural proclivity for art, and actually comic books taught me a lot about art.
Hmm.
When I was a young boy, I would mow lawns just so I could make another dime and go buy a comic book down at the corner store, um, because I loved the art that was in the comic book, and I would start drawing those characters. I was drawn to the vibrant colors, and even now in my own art, I can see, you know, the the connection to that in my art now. So I began training even then in high school. Obviously, I went to every art class I could. In college, I studied art for a couple of years. Um, but when this happened 4.5 years ago, um, I just started. I got some good advice early on. I saw a very, very talented artist that ran a local gallery, and he said, "Don't paint yourself into a corner." This was one of the pieces of advice he gave me. Paint everything that is coming out of your heart and your soul, because the artist that you will be 100 paintings from now is different than the artist you are today. And I really am grateful for that piece of advice because I I started painting everything and anything. And a lot of my friends started saying, "Oh, you're an artist. Well, can you paint this for me? Can you paint a, some wine bottles and some fruit because we're into wine tasting? We just went to a safari in Africa. Can you paint a herd of elephants that's like our family? Can you paint my daughter and our family dog?" And rather than saying no, I said yes, and figured out after the fact how I could do that. And so, really, over the 4.5 years, I've gotten trained in the action of actually painting. Every painting is a learning experience. Um, so that's happened, as well as you have now in the age of the internet, you have YouTube, and you have all of these artists that are sharing their skills, that are available to everybody on the planet. And so you want to learn a technique about pouring or splattering or scraping or um, dripping paint, you can learn all of those things on the internet. And that's not to take away from good university training, but it wasn't my thing. Um, and now I continue. I still get schooled, certainly by talking to local artists and finding out what they do and how they do it, and vice versa. So um, the act of painting is a learning experience.
Because I mean, you can't do the same thing twice, can you?
No,
I
no,
mean, it's impossible.
you can try, but
You can try, but there's always going to be something that's going to
absolutely
be a little off, right?
right.
Or on, however you want to call it. I'm fascinated by this idea of the way of being an artist. I think that was so cool what your friend said. Paint anything, because a lot of times, yes, people focus in on a thing. It doesn't make them not an artist.
Hmm.
Well, what is the difference in the definition that you're describing and somebody who only paints, fruits?
Well,
Do you think?
yeah,
I'm fascinated by that.
yeah. It is interesting because if you want to make a name for yourself, your tendency is to think like a marketer, which is create a niche. Create your niche. And that's how I was thinking when I got started. What is my niche going to be? And I painted 9 paintings that were abstract guitar paintings. And because I was a musician and I play the guitar. So I thought, how cool would it be if I could merge music and art together and create, abstract guitar paintings. And then my friend, the artist, who is the veteran and the master, shot holes all in that and said, don't paint yourself into a corner, literally. And I think that maybe there's a time when a niche is the right way to go. I mean, there are many artists that are masters in figurative work, or they're masters in landscapes. You think of Monet, you think of a landscape. So maybe that day will come, Marilyn. But I think in the journey that an artist takes, if you want to be good at something, attempt to do what you're not good at and try to learn as much as you can about that. So that's at least the era, the part of the journey that I'm on, is continuing to paint what's in my heart, what's in my soul, and what's trying to get out. And sometimes that's figurative, sometimes that's landscape, sometimes that's cityscape, sometimes that's seascape, sometimes it's abstract. So you kind of have to keep your ear to your soul and follow that to a certain degree.
Wow. I want to be able to quote that. Keep your ear to your soul.
Oh boy!
Wow. Hold on.
Totally unplanned.
Whoa. I love that because there have been many, many times in my career that, I was told to find a niche for how I coached, whatever it was that I was doing. And I found it very difficult to niche my message or what I was looking to accomplish in helping people connect, communicate, get along, understand each other, understand themselves, break free, whatever it was, listening to their soul, that's like my thing. So I never did really, I think my overall message is niched, but the way I express it comes out in different ways because it can't come out one way because the niche of the message can't come out in just one way. Otherwise it wouldn't be that message. Right. So for you, your overall experience or expression of the way you like to do art is there something?
And the way it is for me isn't necessarily the way it is for every artist. I don't even mean to say that no one should have a niche. And for me, my natural inclination with art has a lot to do with my own personality. I'm not a super patient person, so I couldn't be a realism artist if I wanted to. I have friends that are realism artists that I respect greatly, and they might take 6 months to finish a painting. I would go absolutely bananas because it's just not how I'm built. It's not in my code. So blurring the lines for me and being more creative, that's where the juices flow for me. And so, I think just like with you and in what you do, you have to find your personality gets, ingrained in that.
Well, that's blurring the lines. Talk because that I'm loving everything that you're saying, and I'm blurring the lines. I couldn't be the same with everything.
Mm.
I can't have it be like in a
Right.
box.
Right.
For me, I just couldn't do it. So what I do sounds similar to blurring the lines. Talk about blurring the lines.
I think it's kind of a signature of of my art because and I do gravitate from impressionism style work toward a little bit more to the abstract side of it, and so the blurring of the lines happens along that continuum. Abstract is sometimes can be very blurry, colors overlapping, textures overlapping. Impressionistic work maybe not quite as much so, but I'm really a blend of the two. And again, I like for people to be able to sort of, when they look at a painting from across the room, that it's drawing them over there. They want to see more about it. They want to try to understand more about it. They want to engage with it. And I think that's where, at least with the way I look at art, I want to engage people by not finishing everything off. I want their own lens, their own insight to be engaged to the point where they can be a part of what's going on in the painting. They're helping to create in their own mind where this painting is going and what it means. And I try to give them enough elements to get them started. Whether that's painting a picture of, I recently did a lion. But I didn't fully detail the lion. You can see the mane and you can see the eyes are pretty distinct. But a lot of the mane is very helter-skelter and allows them to sort of see into the inside of what is this lion about? What is he thinking? Is he majestic? Is he hungry? Is he powerful? And try to see inside some of those blurry lines to create that for themselves.
Yeah, I would venture to say I actually bought a piece of Dan's work at a book signing for a mutual friend, Tatiana, who actually has a show on our station as well, and it was called Free Falling.
Free Falling.
I think. And I loved it because it expressed something about myself that I free fall, and I go with it. And I fall into things, and I loved it. And I could see that expression of myself in there, because I think it was somewhat of a mirage in a sense. That the concept of free falling is not definite; it's not so defined. Do you find that other clients of yours have that same or similar experience with your work, that they see themselves or they see a piece of themselves in your work?
Wow, yeah, it does happen. And by the way, I have to give some credit to Tom Petty on the free falling.
Tom.
Give credit to where credit's due, because I am musically inspired, and at least 50% of my work is somehow inspired by music. But to answer your question, I think that was one of the great surprises to me about doing my art. I knew I had the passion for it. I knew I wanted to do it, and I knew I had this energy to create. That was a given. The thing that was a surprise to me was that it would connect me so intimately and personally with many people who saw something in one of my paintings that reminded them of someone they knew. My friend Christina this past year bought a painting I did called A Woman in Red, and she walked into my house thinking she was going to buy a print, and this was a large painting, and she said, that reminds me so much of my mother. And she used to paint. She said, I have to have that painting. And little did I know anything about Christina's mother when it was being painted, but sometimes this just happens serendipitously. And probably my greatest story a couple of years ago was I was asked to paint a series of butterfly women, and my now good friend Kateri bought the second one that I did, not knowing who I was, but she had been through a bout of cancer the previous year. She saw this on Facebook, came over to my house, saw the painting, and said, "You've painted my journey over the past year." And with tears in her eyes and with tears in my eyes as I'm hearing her tell this story, I just realized that art has this unbelievable way of connecting us soul to soul with another person. And that has been the most gracious and wonderful and generous surprise in my life. And something I did not know. I did not realize the depth of it or the occurrence, how often it would happen. And another example of that, this past festival in Durham this past September, a woman walked in, saw a painting that I did, which I titled My Fair Ladies, after the old movie classic with Audrey Hepburn. And it was women with all gussied up in beautiful hats and dresses and very colorful. And there was a scene in the movie where these women were at a horse race, and this woman came into my tent at the festival, and she said, "Tell me about this painting." And I told her exactly what I just said. It was inspired by this famous old movie, just a classic. And she said, she looked at me with a tear in her eye, and she said, "This was the first movie my mother ever took me to," and her mother had passed away. And she looked at me and she said, "I have to have this painting." And I was just reminded by how a piece of art can take us back to a memory or to a person or to a time in our lives when something special happened, and how that now hanging on her wall can bring her such pleasure, for the rest of her life. And so that's, again, that's just been something incredible that I found as an artist that just spurs me to want to paint, tomorrow, today, this afternoon when I get back home. And to have more moments like that with people is just really incredible.
Thank you so much for sharing this.
Sure.
It's really like just such a beautiful thing to listen to. So I want to ask you, when you're painting these paintings,
Mm-hmm.
are you connecting with these possibilities of these encounters? Are you having some kind of something happen while you're doing these paintings?
Mm.
If you look back at the My Fair Ladies,
Mm-hmm.
well, you look back at the one that the lady found on Facebook. Do you recall feeling something at the time that you painted those?
I'd love to be able to tell you there's a psychic thing going on.
You can't
But
tell me that?
No, I can't. Although I am now more present in understanding that it happens, which is really interesting. And I'm not super over religious, but I'm a spiritual person. I believe in God, and I'm the more that this stuff happens to me, the more it shows me that sometimes, at least, things do happen for a reason. And I've begun, since these times that have happened, more and more to feel like when I paint a painting, it is meant for someone somewhere. I don't know who it is or why it is, how it is, but but I feel like, even if a painting doesn't sell right away, it's like, it's no big deal, because I've had people come. I've been doing this 4.5 years now, right? Like, I'm in many eyes, I'm still an emerging artist. Um, However, the number of occurrences makes me feel like um, when I'm painting something, even if it takes years for someone to find it, it's meant for somebody. And I don't I don't try from a marketing perspective to go, I think it's time for a painting with women in beautiful hats. It doesn't happen like that. It just kind of what moves me. And again, music. Of course, that was an old film. Music moves me a ton because I was a child of the '70s, and I still think the best era of music was probably the '70s, '60s too. Um, but I'll hear a James Taylor song. I recently sold a painting, "Gone to Carolina" is what I named it, after his famous song "Carolina in My Mind," and it was bought by a local person here, Amy, that she had spent some time away from Carolina, and she knew the story behind that song that James Taylor sang. He was in England and had grown up in Carborough and here locally in North Carolina, and he longed to be back in North Carolina when he wrote that song. And the emotions and the lyrics of that song are just so poignant. And there's a place out in the western part of the state, Linville Falls, that reminds me of just the absolute iconic depiction of North Carolina. Beautiful waterfalls, a great hike, and gorgeous evergreens, and it's absolutely North Carolina. And so that connection to the song, to that place that our family loves to go and hike, was why I did the painting. But I didn't know Amy would see that and feel that in her own way. And so it happens. I try not to, try to force it or, plan it, or it's just if it's a song that moves me and I go, yeah, that's one of my favorite songs that deserves a painting. Elton John's famous tune, "Don't Let the Sun Go Down on Me." When I heard that song, it's probably one of my top 5 songs of all time, especially the George Martin version. I had to paint a painting, so I did a sailing painting of that piece with the sun going down in the background behind the sailboat, and that sailboat had to get into the dock before the sun went down, and it was an emotional thing because the song is emotional. So sometimes that's where the inspiration comes from.
Well, I've been sitting here writing notes because I have so many questions to ask Dan. But I want to show the next slide too. So hold on a minute. Let's go. Here we go. So, wow. We know who that is on the left, and we know who that is on the right, or what that is, why.
Yeah, those were 2 pieces that this past year I painted. The John Lennon piece, of course, on the left. And I painted that back during the election month in November last year, because there was just such a lack of harmony in the world, and everybody could feel it. Republicans versus Democrats, and just all the backbiting and friction in the world going on. And I just could feel John Lennon's famous song, "Imagine," and if he were alive, he'd be singing that song, imagine all the people, and just, feeling like there needed to be more peace in the world. And so the painting itself, it's giant, is 4-foot painting, still available, by the way, was my way to get away from it, and also my way of sort of sharing what Lennon probably would have wanted us all to hear. What about a little peace in the world among us? We're all human beings. We're all humankind. And we shouldn't be, at each other constantly to win our point of view. And because we all, we're all alike. We're all humans. So that was the John Lennon piece. And so that was just a blast to do. And of course, We love the Beatles music too, so that doesn't hurt.
Yeah, I love it. It's a great picture.
Thank you.
Great
Thank
painting.
you. Thank you. That'll be hanging up at the showcase this weekend at my
So
house.
I just want so before we go on with anything else, I just want to remind all of you out there that you can call in 919-518-9773. I've been so engaged, I forgot to tell you again. Or you can come in on our chat. You can, put your name, nickname, whatever you like, and you can ask questions. You can make a comment, or you can contact us through Skype right now. Computers, that's plural, the number 2, K-Voice. And you can ask a question. You can share some of your experience as an artist or an artist who's wanting to paint or draw or sing or do whatever. Please, this is a great time. So I have some questions that were coming up for me while you were speaking. So first of all, you made a point of saying early on in our conversation that you don't have patience, that you like to do your piece, and then, so is it that you do the piece and you reach a point that it's done and it doesn't take you so long to get to that piece, so that or is it also that there's another piece waiting to come?
Good question. And I think you have to have a certain amount of patience. So I've got a certain amount, but just not not enough to be an artist that would take 6 months to do a painting. But my work, because it's a little bit more expressionistic, also, it's a little bit more spontaneous. So it happens in a shorter amount of time. The John Lennon piece, and this might be one of the most popular questions I get asked, is how long does it take you to do a painting? Everyone is different. Probably nothing any less than a couple of days, just because, I'm fretting over it at a certain point. I'll look at it and go, I think I'm done, but I'm not done. Let's let it set for a day. And yes, the cool thing, and I work with acrylic and oil, but especially the acrylics, you can work on it for a while, set it aside, let layers dry, because I like to paint layers over layers, and to bring the luminosity in the painting out, and make it more interesting when you look closer at it. But in doing that, you can work on other things. You can work on other paintings. So I've typically got 2 or 3 paintings going on in different phases simultaneously. But when you start getting to let's say the final quarter of a painting you're working on, you're getting pretty intense in focusing on that one and completing that. So you have to have a little bit of patience, but I'm just not equipped to do the realism thing.
Well, I think it's very interesting. I know it's very interesting, and a couple of things that Dan has said. First of all, and I feel this way when I'm doing these books that I'm doing, which is the series, because when you're expressing something, you don't have to keep at it. In other words, you reach a point, it's like you don't have to defend a point. You reach a point, you've expressed it, and it can be gotten at that point. You don't need to keep, dotting every I and crossing another T. When it's done, it's done. And I feel very similar in the work that I do as an author, even as a speaker. You get to a point where you can overtalk or oversell.
That's right.
And I don't want to do that. It's because you want to leave, you want somebody to feel comfortable and get it. So I love that. And I love the patience part. And I do want to say, if you are interested in any work from Dan, you can go, this is a good time. Share your website, and you can ship anywhere, right?
Absolutely.
Okay.
I ship work all over the world, and do work of all sizes. So always happy to be commissioned to do work, or you can visit my website at www.dancampbellart.com. And all my work is categorized there. So if you like seascapes, you can go into that particular gallery, or cityscapes, or figurative, whatever folks like. So yeah, that's an easy way to.
And Facebook.
Yeah, I'm all over Facebook. I am. I have to admit, I'm a Facebook addict now. And it's become a great medium for me as an artist because you can not only show the visual side of what you do, but you can converse with people. And so I'm not one of those Facebook haters, although I do scroll past all the political and all the garbage stuff and don't hang around for that very long. But Instagram, Twitter a little bit, but Facebook for the most part.
So, and also understand, when you look at Dan's work and you see it and you go, 4.5 years, that's it. So nobody can sit here and say it should take you this long to consider yourself an artist, or you are an artist here, you're an author here, you're this, you're that. Don't believe anything you hear. If Dan, look at Dan's work and you'll see, wow, he could be doing this for like a million years. So it doesn't matter. You don't have to wait for some particular something to reach something. You know what I mean? Just do it. That's the most important thing. Just do it. Don't put a time on it. Don't put anything like that. Just express yourself. And I think that's one of the things that I love so much about Dan. He knows how to express himself verbally as well. And I'm fascinated by more and more men expressing themselves this way. I mean, women, we have a little easier time of it. We've been given the words a little earlier. We were encouraged. Men, not so much. So I really thank Dan for being here and being the one or a one that's able to express himself this way, this beautiful way. So thank you for that.
Well, thank you. Thank you. It's a pleasure. I think in my case, and I've had people say, well, do you wish you would have started earlier than in your mid-50s to start your art career? And in some ways, yes, but in other ways, I think it was the perfect time because of what you're talking about is you garner other skill sets along the way. The ability to speak verbally is just one of them. But learning marketing skills and business skills, if you're going to be a selling artist, you have to find a way to sell your work and be comfortable doing that. So I'm thankful that part of it in my business life developed enough that, that comes.
So it's never too late.
That's right. It's never too late.
It's never too late. And you could make one masterpiece and that's it. How many famous artists, songwriters have done one song and that was it? And they'll be known forever.
That's right.
Right?
That's right.
Forever. And so I was going to talk to you about self-promotion.
Okay.
Because in today's world, as entrepreneurs, artists or entrepreneurs, right? Mm-hmm. You can't, if you want to sell, you're going to have to self-promote.
Right.
Right?
Yep.
So talk some about that.
Well, absolutely. You can't be afraid to put yourself out there. In my case, and I would always tell all would-be artists and artists, the place to start is in the networking side of things, face-to-face. Personally, social media is wonderful, but it's an extension of the personal networking that you do. And in my case, and I was already in business, and I was part of a networking group 4.5 years ago, and so I already had some relationships built up. And these were people of all different kinds of businesses. And so one day I made the proclamation to them, hey guys, by the way, I am now a full-time professional artist. And immediately I got support from my network. So instead of cold marketing, you're doing warm marketing. And these folks love you and believe in you and already know you. And you start getting requests. Hey, can you do a piece for my artist, for my office? Can you do a piece for my home? I need a little piece for a bedroom. Can you paint this? And pretty soon and at that stage of my art, I wasn't saying no to anything. So immediately I started selling work. I mean, the very first month that I made this proclamation. And I had people then also, I had testimonials. Hey, Dan did this great piece of art for me. Now I could build my website and put my testimonials on the website. So I was already building a business right out of the gate. So self-promotion starts with being able to freely say who you are and what you're doing to the people that already like you and know you and trust you and love you. And that's a way for you to start building momentum.
I got to ask you a question.
Absolutely.
Where do you get the confidence from to put yourself out there, to say, I'm good enough to put myself out there? Where did you get it from, or what would you tell other people?
Well, confidence comes from doing. And again, liking what you're doing. If you look at your art and you don't like it, it's going to be very hard to have confidence. So again, that litmus test that I was saying earlier, which is, for me to think it's worthy of selling I've got to think, yeah, I'd hang that on my wall. So you get confidence from doing and liking what you're doing. So if an artist is at that point where they're not there yet, you're not ready to start selling yet. At least that's my opinion. But I think the more you're doing it, and again, that master artist way back when I did the paintings and showed him my paintings, and he said, good raw talent here, but keep painting whatever's in your heart. The other thing he said to me was, you're going to be this different artist 100 paintings from now. So the very first year, I went out and painted 100 paintings in my first year. And because I wanted to hurry up and get good. I realized I wasn't good yet. And so I think you get confidence when you feel like you're making progress and you're learning and you're getting better and people are noticing that you're getting better.
You've got to like what you're doing to work on being good.
Yes.
You have to start off liking it.
Yes.
You have to like your idea. You have to like your reason. You have to like the niche. You got to like yourself. You got to like something.
You got to see something there.
Yeah, you got to see something there.
Yeah.
And nobody else has to see it but you. Nobody else
That's
has
right.
to see it but you, because
That's right.
you are the holder of this creative spark. Nobody may understand it. Nobody understood the telephone either. Nobody understood the light bulb either. You know what I mean?
Right.
Somebody has to, you have to be the holder of it to be able to express it to the end.
I think usually you are the one that has the best glimpse of what you can become. And others might see a glimpse of it or a part of it, but your own mind and you can get a vision for yourself. But it still has to be based upon something, some element of skill, some element of passion that you have. And you have to be willing to go to whatever degree it's going to take to hone it and to develop it and to see more of it. So I absolutely agree. Sometimes we don't know what we can do until we do it. And that's the putting yourself out there part and deciding, I'm going to commit myself to get better at this. I love it. I have a passion for it. I'm okay at it, but I can get better at it. And so I think that's part of that vision we have within ourselves, to be able to see that, yeah, I think I can do this. And you do a little bit more. And then you like what you see. You do a little bit more. And pretty soon you paint something like the John Lennon piece or whatever, and you look at it and you go, doggone, I did that. And that just convinces you that there's more yet that you can do.
And I want to ask you something, or I want to say something, and I'm having a struggle with how to actually say it, because these things are so profound that I'm hearing in my soul when we talk about things like this, because I so believe in the process of art and creativity as part of our all of our beingness. And so I'm really having a hard time expressing this thing. So if I miss it today, I'm going to come back and ask you, because it floats in and it floats out of me. So I'm sorry but this is really good. So as soon as I get it, I'm going to blurt it out. Okay, everybody, because you're going to have to hear it, because I know it's important. And I do believe that we all have creativity in us. And part of our journey is finding it and somehow expressing it in whatever form it wants to come out. So I think this is cool. So let's show some more of these slides, because maybe this thought I'm having is going to come to me.
I think it was Picasso that said
burning.
we all start out as artists when we're kids, and somewhere along the way in the busyness of life, we forget we're creative. Whether it's a mom, you're being creative with the environment you surround your child with, so that the child enjoys learning. Creativity comes out in so many ways. So I think you're absolutely right. We are, in some ways, in the image of the Creator, and we love to create. Some people think they can't create, and I think it's just they haven't found the thing they can create with. But
Right, I agree. But you keep looking or seeking or asking. Open up your ears, open up your eyes, open up your listening. See what you're connecting with. So let's go through some of the other slides that Dan sent us, and maybe you can give us a little heads up on what they are.
Sure. This is kind of a semi-abstract piece called Autumn Serenade. And I'd kind of in my mind seen a little sort of path, a lighted path through the forest, and I was in an orange mood. There actually wasn't a song behind this one, but but that's the name of this one, Autumn Serenade. I've since created a couple of similar pieces for people with a similar theme. This is called True Colors, which was musically inspired by Cyndi Lauper's old tune. I can see your true colors shining through, and so the human body is just so beautiful, and at the heart of it and underneath our skin, we're all the same color. So that was kind of the inspiration for that piece. This is Autumn Dance, and it's fall, and the leaves are falling, and the fall colors are all around us. That's what inspired this piece, and I had done a similar piece a couple of years ago. September was the name of that, to this. So this was the sister in that series. This is Wildfire. Again, being the the guy, the 70s geek, there was an old song back in the 70s called Wildfire. She ran calling wildfire. Everybody in my era probably can remember it, but it was a really haunting song about a horse and a girl that disappeared. And Michael Martin Murphey, I recall, speaking of maybe not exactly one-hit wonders. You were talking about that earlier, not far from it. But I always loved that song, and I could see this colorful horse coming down from Yellow Mountain. This is a landscape called Watching the River Run, and another musically inspired piece. Kenny Loggins is one of my all-time favorite vocalists, and back in the 70s, he was in a band, many of you may remember Loggins and Messina, and they did a song called Watching the River Run, and I heard that one day and went, man, I'm just digging that groove. I've got to paint a painting. So that's when that brought that to mind. Of course, this is the painting I titled Imagine, after John Lennon's famous song.
So that was beautiful.
Thank you.
So this weekend you're having a special event. So why don't you tell everybody about that? Especially if you're local. If you're not, too bad. You'll have to contact Dan another way.
Or fly into town.
Yeah, fly into town, exactly.
In Morrisville, where I live, this is the third annual. But every holiday season, we have a weekend, Saturday and Sunday, that we have an open house, and 12 to 6, everybody's invited. Feel free to bring friends or family, and we have refreshments. And I've got about 35 of my latest paintings there, and prints as well, so which make good gifts. And come on by and enjoy some holiday cheer with us.
So, who of the greatest masters is your role model, mentor, you look at and go, wow? Or is it just pieces?
Artistically,
Yeah.
oh, so many. There really are so many. I don't know if there's one that just stands out. I think we have our heroes, and I think Cezanne from the Impressionist side, certainly Degas.
Oh, I love Degas.
Just unbelievable.
Oh, I love Degas.
In the modern era, there are some modern artists that I absolutely love. Susan Easton from Georgia is fabulous textural painter. Lots of layers of paint, and love her style. Henry Asensio, I like on the figurative side of things.
Good list.
Yeah,
Good
yeah.
list.
There's a long list.
I
There's a
bet.
long list.
Find your
respect a lot.
list. Go out and find your list. Go to museums, listen to music. Start to open yourself up. I think that's an important road to your expression. So we only have a few minutes left, but can you give like a moment of like words of wisdom, a jewel, something that's come, maybe you didn't express already?
Wow, the pressure's on.
Yeah. Oi.
Thanks,
Oi.
Marilyn.
Oi.
I can only offer what's happened to me, and that is just the realization that you only have one life on this earth. And when you're in your 20s, you think you have lots of lives. It's almost like we think we have multiple lives. We're going to live a long time, and so we have plenty of time to get to that or to get to this. And I think that's what happened to me in the 50s, is you realize, doggone, I only have one life. And there's not that much of it left. And don't wait to get into your 50s to discover that. If you are in your 50s, get on with it. Do the stuff you absolutely are burning to do, because the time will come where we won't have a chance to do it.
Absolutely.
And you have one life to live, and live it to the fullest. Make it the best it can possibly be.
Right. That is exactly my words. Breaking free.
Breaking free.
Breaking free. So before here's my book, In Just One Afternoon, Listening to the Hearts of Men. It's the first of a series. This one delves into the stories, the lives that men are telling. And it really is remarkable. And I will tell you, it does take on a life of its own. And the men were marvelous. And so it's on Amazon. You can get an ebook. You can get it in paperback. Let me know what you think. Dan, it has been an absolute, just pleasure.
Thank you. Me too.
Oh, my God. Thank you so much for being here. You are
Very
wonderful. And just the way you express, and I love what you were saying. Use your life. Your life is so important to your material, really. And use where you've come from. And, there's no wrong in anything that we're doing, really. Unless, of course, it's criminal.
Right.
But other than that, really, there's nothing wrong. Just use your life like Dan has used his experiences, and it all, I think and here's something that I say very often, listen backwards. Listen and connect your life backwards and see where you've come from. Connect your dots and going back and see how it all kind of makes sense in what you're doing, right? Dan, was into marketing, and how that came into being and to help him in what he's doing now. So our lives are, all the points and parts of our lives matter. So thank you so much for being here.
You're welcome. Thank you. It's been really an honor.
Well, it's been marvelous. And I want to thank you all out there for being with us today. We look forward to seeing you next week. I'm Nan. Mwah. Thank you. And thank you all so much for being here. It's always a pleasure. See you next week.
You are tuned to the Nissan Communications Network. If you tuned in too late, you can always watch each program in its entirety or download an MP3 audio file of it in the archives section at nissancommunications.com. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel, follow us on Twitter, and like us on Facebook. Sponsored by Telestream's Wirecast software, StreamingGear.com, Carolina Apparel, and DeltaForce.net.